to. All right, so this is the official start of the project subcommittee with the Critical Area Commission. We are holding this meeting virtually due to the current public health emergency. The meeting is being held using Microsoft Teams, and a video of this meeting will be provided online to comply with open meetings requirements. A couple of housekeeping rules. All of the microphones will be muted. We're asking folks to hold questions and comments until the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please, when you come off mute, announce your name. If you're joining us by phone, you can use *6 to unmute. For the one project that we will be discussing today, public may have been invited to submit comments. I'm not sure if that's applicable in this case, Kate.
They were, and we did not receive any, so thank you.
Okay. All right. So I guess at this point, we'll go ahead and turn it over to critical area staff to do a quick roll call for the project subcommittee.
Thank you, Commissioner McCall. This is Charlotte with the commission staff. I am going to read off the list I have of commissioners who are present. So if I do not call your name, please let me know. I have Commissioner McCall, Commissioner Laird, Commissioner Mahoney, Commissioner Sutton, Commissioner McDowell, Commissioner Parker, and Commissioner Roberson. Is there anyone I did not name who is present? Okay, thank you.
All right, and I should have mentioned I'm filling in for Commissioner Hertz from the Maryland Department of Transportation today. She was unable to join us. So thank you for doing that. And the first and only project that we're going to discuss today is the Maryland Department of Transportation Maryland Airport Authority, an update to the MDOT MOU Exhibit A2. And today's presentation will be given to us by Susan McCloof of the Critical Area staff. So go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. One moment, please. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. Good morning, everyone. This is Susan McCloof, and I will be presenting an update to the Maryland Department of Transportation Memorandum of Understanding, Exhibit A2, Maryland Aviation Administration. I also want to acknowledge that Kevin Clark, Director for the MDOT MAA Office of Planning and Environmental Services, is attending the meeting today and will be available to answer any questions you may have at the end of the presentation. So before we get started, I want to give you a brief outline for the presentation. First, we'll review general approvals and the background of the Maryland Department of Transportation Critical Area Commission MOU. Then we will review the updates to the MAA exhibit, and I will highlight the changes that are specific to the Maryland Aviation Administration. Finally, there will be time for any questions you may have at the end of the presentation.
Susan?
Yes.
Slides, I think, are just showing the edit mode, not the presentation mode.
Okay,
yeah, they're not following along.
Okay, let me start presenting. And start again. Screen one.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, does that look better, everyone?
Looks great, Susan. Perfect.
Okay, thank you for that. So again, good morning. This is Susan McCloof, and I will be presenting an update to the Maryland Department of Transportation Memorandum of Understanding, Exhibit A2, Maryland Aviation Administration. So before we get started, I want to give you a brief outline for the presentation. First, we'll review general approvals and the background of the Maryland Department of Transportation Critical Area Commission MOU. Then we will review the updates to the MAA exhibit, and I will highlight the changes that are specific to the Maryland Aviation Administration. And finally, we'll have time for questions at the end of the presentation. So under Natural Resources Article 8-1801 and COMAR 2702, the Critical Area Commission is required to approve any action by a state agency which results in development in the critical area on state-owned land, private lands, or lands owned by local jurisdictions. COMAR 270203 specifically gives the Commission the ability to enter into a general approval with state agencies to seek approval for programs or classes of activities that result in development of a minor scale in the critical area. This general approval authority has commonly been implemented through the use of a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between the Commission and a state agency. The existing MOU between MDOT and the Critical Area Commission was updated in 2019. The MOU outlines the process for the review and approval by the Commission for MDOT projects located within the critical area. It describes the responsibilities of both parties and includes the process to be used by both parties to establish mitigation banks. The MOU includes exhibits for each of MDOT's transportation business units, or TBUs. The exhibits include greater detail regarding the specific projects that can be reviewed, the thresholds for disturbance or impacts for projects that could qualify under the MOU, and the necessary mitigation. Since the existing MDOT MOU was updated in 2019, the Commission has also approved updated exhibits for SHA and MTA. This proposal today represents an update to the MAA exhibit. So Exhibit A2 is specific to the Maryland Aviation Administration, or MAA. The only location the MAA exhibit covers is Martin State Airport, which is located in Baltimore County. The exhibit allows for an expedited review process for minor projects, including specific maintenance activities and development activities that are minor in size and/or scope. The existing MAA exhibit was last reviewed and approved by the Commission in 2004. The goal for the updated exhibit is to follow the similar, more streamlined process for review of projects found in the SHA and MTA exhibits. In order to achieve this goal, the MAA exhibit is similar in format to the SHA and MTA exhibits. It includes additional project types that may be approved at the agency or staff level. And these project types are broken into two categories. Category 1, limited reporting activities, and Category 2, development activities that are minor in size and/or scope. The exhibit also includes a technical and process guidance document that lays out the processes and procedures for coordination between MDOT MAA and Commission staff when implementing the MAA exhibit. As noted in the previous slide, activities that qualify for review under the exhibit fall within two categories. Similar to the other MDOT TBU exhibits, activities that meet the parameters of Category 1 are reported annually to Commission staff only if they involve the clearing of up to 5 trees. If they do not require tree clearing, they are not reported. Category 2 projects, development activities that are minor in size and/or scope, must meet the qualifying parameters of Category 2 and must be submitted to Commission staff for review and approval. So you can refer to the updated exhibit attached to your staff report for the complete list of Category 1 activities. This slide lists several types of activities, including beneficial restoration projects, stormwater management maintenance, and maintenance of existing runways, taxiways, taxi lanes, and roadways. Specific project types include landscape maintenance, resurfacing of existing runways, taxiways, or taxi lanes, outfall stabilization, and maintenance of previously cleared areas as required by federal regulations to address air traffic safety. Category 2 projects are development activities that are minor in size and/or scope. And again, you can refer to the exhibit attached to the staff report to view the complete list of Category 2 activities. Examples include projects that do not meet the clearing limit of 5 trees or less, new or expanded structures, projects where an increase in imperviousness is proposed, and new safety-related vegetative clearing. As noted earlier, Category 2 projects must meet the qualifying parameters in order to be reviewed under the exhibit. You can refer to the updated exhibit for the complete list of qualifying parameters, and this slide lists several, including the following. New buildings or structures are limited to 1,200 square feet. The limit of disturbance for nonlinear projects is limited to 5,000 square feet, and the expansion of lot coverage for linear projects is limited to a 5-foot width on either side. Forest and developed woodland clearing is limited to 20,000 square feet for linear projects and 5,000 square feet for nonlinear projects. And no impacts to habitat protection areas are allowed other than the critical area buffer. The thresholds for disturbance or impacts listed under the qualifying parameters may be exceeded by minor amounts if MDOT-MAA provides justification for the exceedance. Critical area staff will review the submittal and notify MAA whether or not they concur with granting an exception. If the project does not meet the exception, it will require a full Critical Area Commission review and approval. A report listing projects that were granted this exception will be submitted by MAA annually. Section 3.1.9 of the exhibit includes examples of justification, such as the nature or intensity of the project is not changing. After completion of work, the site will be restored to original conditions, and all work will be completed within MAA-owned property. The updated exhibit also specifies mitigation ratios for Category 2 projects. The various mitigation ratios are listed on this slide, and these mitigation ratios are similar to those previously approved by the Critical Area Commission and the SHA and MTA exhibits, with one exception. The mitigation ratio for safety-related clearing is 1.5 to 1, both inside and outside the critical area buffer. And this 1.5 to 1 ratio represents a compromise between the typical 1-to-1 mitigation ratio for forest or developed woodland clearing outside the buffer and the 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 mitigation ratios typically required for forest clearing located within the buffer. In addition, mitigation plantings must be approved by both the Critical Area Science Advisor and MAA to ensure that the plantings do not become a potential safety hazard for aircraft. As you know, COMAR 27020502A2 requires state agencies to conduct an assessment of climate resilient practices that address coastal hazards, extreme weather events, and sea level rise. The MDOT-MAA Office of Planning coordinates climate change vulnerability assessments for projects located on MAA-owned property, including projects from tenants. MAA currently reviews projects during planning to determine if they are located in a zone of sea level change and flooding. MAA reviews all applicable capital projects in accordance with the Coast Smart Construction Program guidance as amended to ensure avoidance and minimization of impacts to projects in vulnerable locations. So as noted earlier, the MAA exhibit is similar to the SHA and MTA exhibits, which the Commission reviewed and approved in 2019. However, there are several changes that are unique to the MAA exhibit, and the changes are listed on the slide and include the following. Minor alterations and deletions were made for language specific to MDOT-MAA. For example, when referring to areas of existing impervious surface, the language runways, taxiways, taxi lanes was added since these surfaces comprise much of the existing pavement in airports. Language is included in the exhibit to address MDOT-MAA tenants. This language clarifies that all projects proposed on land owned by MDOT-MAA, which are located within the critical area, including projects proposed by tenants, must be reviewed for compliance with critical area law and regulations as outlined in the exhibit. New mitigation ratios were derived specifically for safety-related clearing as required by federal regulations. MDOT-MAA is unique in that it must maintain a safe and navigable airspace for various types of aircraft, and this often requires clearing and/or managing existing vegetation in and near airports. Navigational safety requirements and standards for airports are regulated by multiple federal agencies, including the Federal Aviation Administration and the Department of Homeland Security. Maintenance of previously cleared areas does not require mitigation. As discussed earlier, new safety-related clearing requires mitigation at a 1.5 to 1 ratio. And finally, new access roads outside the buffer constructed using pervious construction methods are limited in width to 22 feet. This is the minimum width required by FAA safety standards to accommodate emergency vehicles and equipment. And this is a change from the SHA and MTA exhibits, which limit new access roads outside the buffer to a width of no more than 15 feet. The MAA exhibit includes as an attachment the technical and process guidance document. This attachment is meant to be a living document that lays out the processes and procedures for coordination between MDOT MAA and Commission staff when implementing the MAA exhibit. The attachment begins on page A2-12 of the exhibit. The attachment includes definitions. It also lists the reporting requirements for Category 1 projects that require tree removal and Category 2 projects that require justification. It explains the notification requirements for project changes, and it describes points of contact for various contract types. The Commission staff recommends approval of the MDOT MOU Exhibit A2, Maryland Aviation Administration as proposed. Thank you for your attention, and I will now turn it back over to the subcommittee chair for discussion and any questions you may have.
Thanks so much, Susan. So at this point, does anybody have any questions, either in the chat or any of the commissioners wanting to follow up?
This is Caroline. Hello?
Hi, Caroline.
Hi. I'm so sorry. I'm only on the phone call, and I just wanted to make sure you knew I was on. And I heard everything, and I don't have any questions. I just wanted to make sure you knew I was on the phone.
Thank you very much, Carolyn.
Okay.
All right. Does any of the other commissioners have any questions? Or any of the members of the public? I know we didn't get any comments in written form. Or anybody from MDOT that might like to address the subcommittee.
Tammy's hand is up.
Oh. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, yeah, I have a general question. I know recently PFAS has been recognized at the airport, and I just wanted to see if any of the documents, the reporting documents, actually address any, I guess, acknowledgement of potential, areas that are being worked. If PFAS, that might be something that those documents may want to include, and I'm unfortunately didn't have an opportunity to look at those documents but I wanted to know if that has, I guess, kind of come on the radar with those reporting documents.
I think whether Susan or MDOT, do you have any insight on that question?
This is Susan again. That was not discussed during the update for this exhibit, PFAS contamination. I guess is that what we're referring to, Commissioner Roberson?
Yes.
Yeah, that is not something we discussed during the update of this exhibit. I don't know if Kevin has any additional information or wants to perhaps address that.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, pushing the wrong buttons here. Kevin Clark, Maryland Aviation Administration. Great question. Thank you for the PFAS thing. It is a growing concern. Maryland Aviation Administration is addressing it at BWI and Martin. We're following the regulations or the emerging regulations on it. We are addressing it out of our compliance office, which is not mine, so I can't talk very technically about it. I'm sorry. But we do have some programs that, that are addressing it.
Kevin, this is Kate Charbonneau. So speaking from someone who has no idea what we're talking about, so this is a particular type of contaminant?
Yes, it's one of those, I forget what they call it, kind of like lifetime chemicals that can enter the environment, and it is usually included in firefighting foam.
Okay, so
that's for airports. That's the biggest concern, and we do have some facilities at the airport that use foams, they're transitioning to non-PFAS type foams, but the fact that this is a historic site that was manufacturing and things like that, there's probably areas of old contamination that have been identified at the airport.
Okay, so Commissioner Roberson, I think to answer your question, if I guess as MAA learns more and develops more plans, if they came to the commission with a need to do some type of activity related to cleanup or mitigation of this contaminant, we would work directly with MAA to understand more about what needed to be done. And then I think if it made sense to work it into this exhibit, we would be able to do that type of a modification to the exhibit. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Roberson?
Well, I guess some of the concern is, potentially doing, some of the earth disturbance that could potentially mobilize some of those contaminations. So, the PFAS chemicals. And so I guess I was just curious if, the areas at Martin Neck or at the airport, if they have actually been identified, specific areas. And I guess, potentially wanting that to be included in the reports that are submitted for, I guess it probably wouldn't apply to Category 1, but Category 2 projects.
So this is Kevin. In our NEPA documents and just our environmental inventories, we do have other contamination sites, CERCLA, contamination sites identified on the airport and past cleanup projects. So whenever we go into a design project, we do look for those things. My understanding, and again, I'm very naive on this one, the PFAS, because it's so emerging, I don't think we've systematically mapped any contamination areas. But we do look for it whenever we do soil sampling whenever we do soil sampling for a project, we do look for it and address it through the design project or process at that point.
So Commissioner Roberson, are you looking for information or documentation as part of their annual report about finding sites?
I guess, yes, just with the reporting requirement for the Category 1 and Category 2, if there's any kind of documentation of the contamination that's identified during those projects.
Right.
In the annual report, correct.
Right. We could work on a change to the exhibit to ask for that information. Susan, do you have any ideas about where that could go in the exhibit?
Sure, I just wanted to stop sharing my screen. It could go maybe into the attachment that describes the reporting requirements. We could add, something along the lines of any identified, sites of any contamination or any, potentially contaminated sites should be included in the documentation that's provided, I guess, when projects are submitted. There's Category, 1 limited reporting, there's Category 2, or even just the general submission of, documentation. But I guess the question would be, do we want to cover like all projects, Category 1, Category 2, full commission? Would we want that type of information submitted for all projects?
Susan, you're still sharing your screen. Can you hit the X next to the leave button?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Roberson, do you have any specific thoughts on which projects, or would it be all projects or any sort of as part of an annual report? And you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry. I guess I'd be interested in hearing what other commissioners, think regarding the reporting of annual reports for the various, projects. I do think it's critical and, you know, information, just to actually have an understanding of, you know, not only the PFAS, but the other contaminants too. So I guess I'm interested in other, you know, others' thoughts on the information being reported.
Do any other commissioners have input on that?
Pat Mahoney, I'd more have kind of a, I guess, a question or maybe some information to share that can be shared. When we talk about, and if this has been addressed, I apologize. When we talk about contaminated areas, do we, is there residential areas close by? And I wonder how, you know, and you know, the effect on the long-term effect on water supply concerns me.
So this is Kevin again. Residential areas to the south of the airport on the kind of the other side of the peninsula or Wilson Point Road. So there are some historic neighborhoods, you know, close by out on the point. Probably, you know, the biggest concern at Martin State Airport that we've been dealing with for decades is a Lockheed Martin contamination site on the north side of the airport. So it is under consent decree for cleanup, and Lockheed Martin is developing a remediation strategy for that. We're partnering with them, trying to find, you know, optimize the land use and such. They've installed a groundwater treatment plant, an intercept system to prevent the spread of those contaminants into Frogmortar Creek on the north. So these issues of spread have been going on for a while, and that's, you know, like I said, on the north side of the airport, and Lockheed's doing a great job taking care of that, and we're looking for the remediation, you know, the final remediation program. As far as, you know, all of, you know, any of the other small sites tend to be, you know, oils, petroleum products, you know, some manufacturing things that have been cleaned up, wooden tanks are pulled and stuff like that. So we have been very conscious about the stormwater management for anything carried from the surface into those surrounding waterways. And I think just anecdotally, the water quality on the north side is getting closer to being open to recreational contact. Right now we have signs up for not recommending contact, and it has been getting better because that intercept system is working.
Well, I'm still here. If I can, I just want to share some you know, personal experience here in the town of Chesapeake Beach. As mayor, we have a naval research lab just a few miles south of town, and I want to say maybe 4 years ago, we were informed about some activity that took place actually during World War II, using a certain, you know, chemical ingredient to put out airplane fires. I guess that's where it was being researched or tested, and so the Navy went through this nationwide, you know, process of checking water supplies and this and that. And while we, you know, we were very vigilant in this process, and were informed a couple of years ago that our water supply was okay. You know, they recently came back and said, well, you know, hold on, we're still looking at things, that sort of thing, which of course scared us, and we're getting our water tested. But my point is that this, you know, this is something that can come back to haunt you decades later. It's, you know, I mean, it's just very, very serious, because it gets into the waters, you know, it gets underground into that water supply, you know, the aquifers, et cetera. You know, it can affect, you know, future generations as well as now. So I'm very cautious when I hear about this. So I just want to share that caution with my colleagues. That's my statement.
Thanks, Commissioner. I have a follow-up question, I guess, for Commissioner Roberson and maybe Kevin. What would, let's say it wasn't in the critical area or just in general, how are these types of contaminants typically reported back if they're found in any type of sample?
This is Kevin. I am not familiar. That's not my wheelhouse with MAA about the compliance reporting and the testing requirements that we do. So I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you on that today. But there is a very active program, and I think several agencies that do regulate all of those reportings. And we carry our spill prevention containment plans, our oil discharge plans, all of the stormwater permits. Those are all regulated, and our compliance program manages all of those things.
And this is Tammy Robertson. I guess from tidal wetlands, I can kind of speak. I mean, as Kevin mentioned, this is kind of a new and emerging path that we're kind of going down, and we're starting to have those conversations just within the tidal wetlands division. When we know of areas that have known PFAS contamination, what should we do? And we're starting to work closely with LMA. There's not many areas that we currently are aware of in the state of Maryland, but potentially requiring testing to be done. This is actually the airport is actually just the second known facility that kind of has fallen in tidal wetlands jurisdiction of kind of known contamination and trying to develop a path forward. So I just thought it was a good, this might be just kind of our introduction to PFAS and starting to kind of think about how do we want to, having a site that we know there is PFAS, contamination. How do we want to begin addressing it, potentially with the MOU and reporting requirements.
So Commissioner Robertson, this is Susan again, and I worked, of course, in compliance at MD when you were also there. So when we were, and with the construction general permit, so we were coordinating when there were sites that came in for coverage under the construction general permit. We did coordinate quite a bit with LMA, with Land Management Administration. So we sent those permits all upstairs for their review. And I believe there is an online database that you can go to that has the, like you said, the known contaminated sites mapped. And I think it links to quite a bit of documentation, I think, LMA. So we coordinated that way, through, again, through the construction general permit. So I don't know if there's some way to review projects using that online mapping tool, or even coordinating with LMA, or something along those lines. But they, as far as my understanding, is like the go-to for contaminated sites in the state. That's where the investigations and the research begins, I guess, and with coordination with the counties and other entities, I guess. But that seems to be where much of the, like I said, the knowledge, I guess, and the review is taking place. Is my understanding, my probably incomplete understanding, but yeah, that would definitely be a starting point.
Commissioner McCall, if I can make offer a suggestion, the way that the overall NDOT exhibit is set up, as well as this approval of, or I should say the overall NDOT MOU plus the approval of this exhibit and the attachments, is once the approval is through on the exhibit and the attachments, staff is able to modify the attachments with agreement with the agency and then bring it back to the commission for information. So we could look into this issue further, make any adjustments to attachment 1 about the technical and process guidance document to sort of put in what needs to be covered or shown or documented related to contaminants in general, and particularly this one, and then bring that back and report back to the subcommittee on those modifications.
To me, that seems like a good approach. I kind of want to hear from some of the other commissioners. Would everyone be in support of that approach for this particular MOU?
I don't know if I'm still on mute or not. This is Pat Mahoney. So we're saying basically you're going to work on this and come back to it.
Correct.
What would be so what would be the parliamentary action today?
I think
would
the
you be
action
asking me
today
to
would
do?
still be an approval of the exhibit and its attachments. And then with the request that staff research this issue further and come back with any necessary revisions to attachment 1.
Kate, I would also throw in there attachment 1 or potentially the exhibit itself, just in case.
Okay, good point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could not approve it and wait for the your work to be done and the revised attachments or whatever you end up doing. We could just wait, right? To be sure, we don't have to approve this today. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. That's probably the way I'm going to go, but I'll leave it at that.
And Commissioner Roberson, since you raised this particular issue, do you have a preference one way or the other, kind of approving it today and moving it with a report back in A1 or the exhibit itself, or putting it on a pause while the staff look into it and bring it back to a vote at a later meeting?
I liked Kate's idea of, having that opportunity to tweak it and maybe include like a contamination section. So I'm in agreement to move it forward, and we can, tweak the document as necessary once we have that additional information.
All right. So I guess at this point, Kate, I think what I would move to do then is ask for a motion from the subcommittee commissioners to move this forward with the understanding and the ask for commission staff to look into this issue and look at potential revisions to A1 or the exhibit itself to address some of the contaminant issues. And we may, is there a time frame that we may want to put on that to help kind of look at setting that timeline and follow back up?
I think we can, I'm going to suggest somewhere between 30 to 60 days. Does that seem reasonable, Susan and Kevin and Tammy? And do you have a preference?
I can definitely work on this. Probably, a little more time would be better. I know it is a very, it's a complicated issue. It's an emerging issue. There are a lot of contaminants. There are a lot of entities looking at it. And yes, a little additional time would probably be helpful to do it, correctly and make sure we make the edits in the correct part, like I said, either in the exhibit, as Emily was saying, or maybe in the attachment. So, but I'm definitely, yes, ready to work on it.
So maybe 60 days.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
That sounds reasonable.
And Susan, this is Kevin. We're here for you, whatever you need.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Thanks. Definitely be reaching out.
And Susan, connecting with Mark Mank, I'm happy to kind of, assist in reaching out to, LMA and kind of getting some input from them too. So I'm happy to help too.
Yeah, definitely, Commissioner Roberson. I'll definitely be reaching out to you and the contacts and compliance and LMA and everyone. Yes, because I think that will be definitely a part of it. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess at this point, I'd like to ask for someone to make a motion to take that approach, approve the material before us today with a requirement then that the commission staff will come back to us in approximately 60 days looking further into this contaminant issue with potential revisions to A1 or the exhibit.
Commissioner Robertson, approve.
And a second?
Second by Commissioner Laird.
That was Commissioner Laird.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All those in favor?
This is Carolyn. I say aye.
And any opposed?
Mahoney opposes.
Any abstentions?
Can we do a roll call
Yeah.
since there was a oppose?
I don't have the list in front of me. Can one of the commission staff?
Yes,
go
I
through
can
the
do
roll?
that. Sorry.
Thanks.
Just taking notes. Okay. When I call your name, if you can just say yay or nay. Commissioner McCall,
Yay.
Commissioner Laird,
Yay.
Commissioner Mahoney,
No.
Commissioner Sutton,
Yay.
Commissioner McDowell,
Yay.
Commissioner Parker,
Yay.
Commissioner Roberson,
Yay.
Commissioner Varney Alvarado,
Yay.
and I believe Commissioner McCarthy joined us a little bit late.
Yes. Yay.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone? Okay.
So I think at that point, the motion will carry forward, correct? And that was the end of our project list today. So let's see. I think at this point, we'll go ahead and conclude the project subcommittee meeting today and bring this forward to the full commission this afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Catherine.
Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Kevin. If you're still there, I just want to say thank you to the commission and the great staff for helping us through this as we try and fit our development needs and meeting all the federal requirements for safety and things like that. We truly appreciate your help. So thank you.
Sure thing. Thanks.